I have a deadline now. I have less than a week
Yeah.
to get the Resident Evil 2 podcast ready.
You can do it.
No.
How much have you done for it?
I don't want to talk about it.
Okay.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Gameboys podcast. Today we are doing things a little bit differently because, as you are well aware, you're hearing my voice instead of our wonderful previous host, Dolan. And we're also covering a different game as well. We are now covering Halo, specifically Combat Evolved. Say hi, everyone.
Hi, everyone.
Thank you very much for that. Just as I asked.
I'm free! I'm finally free! I'm not a host! I can just be a person!
Well, to kick things off, I'd like to ask everybody who happens to be watching a question. Please leave down in the comments, what was your experience getting into the Halo series if you've been into it? I'm really curious to hear that. But to start, I'm going to ask also my fellow compatriots here what they thought. Dolan, what was your experience in playing Halo for the first time?
Yeah, I've actually got a really... so I have two stories, because of course I do. Even though I'm not the host, I have to talk more, legally, contractually obligated. But probably my first time ever playing Halo was just like at a friend's house. They had an Xbox, and I may have made it through the Pillar of Autumn, because I know I was on the first... I remember very vividly the first mission when you're like on the actual Halo. I forget the name of it now. The second mission, though. I thought you'd chime in with the name. I don't know what it is.
I think it's just Halo?
Mission number 2?
Yeah, Mission 2, Halo. Anyway, I remember vividly getting shot down by those Banshees, like, constantly, and being like, I do not understand this game. I am a child. Because it was like 2000 when did this game come out? I'm supposed to know that. I'm the development history guy. It was the early 2000s. And I was a child. But yeah, I remember that, and that wasn't... But the real first impressions was when the PC version came out, which I believe was about 2 years after the Xbox version. It was a little bit older. And my dad got into it. They'd played a game called Medal of Honor for a while, but that game had kind of run its course, the Allied Assault version. And then all his friends from the small group started playing Halo instead to follow up. And at that point, I'd watch him and I'd be like, hey, I want to try, Dad. And he's like, be my guest, because I like Medal of Honor better. He was kind of a World War II buff. But golly, and I know he did not have a gaming machine, so even though I don't remember this being a specific problem, that sucker must have run at like 15 frames a second, if we're being generous here. But I remember playing a lot of the online first, mostly, because again, that's what he did. He wasn't really interested in the story, but I got to play that a lot, and then eventually he's like, I'm bored of this game, I don't like it, my friends tried to get me to play it, but I'm not into it. And at some point I got a personal computer, and he was like, here, take the disc. And I was like, yeah, I'll try playing this game. Good to play different games. And I was like, whoa, this is for reals. This is like a game that left a big impression on me. Because even though I didn't, even though I was years late to the party and it was the PC port, well, we'll get into why it's so great. But yeah, that was kind of my first impressions with it.
Awesome. Christian, if I remember correctly, I think this is the first time that you've gotten into the Halo series. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but tell me about your thoughts about you getting into the series.
So this is the first time I've gotten into the story of the series. Those of you who don't know, I was raised Team PlayStation all the way. So I didn't even start PC gaming until like 2012, I think. So my first experience with Halo at all, I went to a small high school, and we had a class called Computer Lab, and what happened was, every day after we finished our work, we were allowed to just kind of play games on the computer, and one of my buddies had Halo on. He had downloaded Halo onto like a USB, and he plugged it into the computer servers whenever we would finish our work, and we would play in the computer lab at my high school.
Oh man.
And I don't know which Halo it was. I really don't know. But I just know I had a blast with that, and that's really the only experience I've had since then, and that was probably 2013, 2014. So it's been a while, but Dolan, you say you're late to the game, and I didn't even know the game started until 10 years later.
That's gotta, real quick, I'm jumping in. It's gotta be Halo 1 because the other Halos didn't get a PC release until, like, very recently. Isn't that right, Austin?
I honestly don't remember that. I don't remember if most of them came out, with, like, the Master Chief Collection. I could have sworn Halo 2 had a PC port.
Well, I'm just saying, Halo was Xbox's big. That kind of leads into, actually, could I jump into my section here? Because that leads into the development history.
Well, yeah, go ahead. We'll do a
yeah, you got 2 years. No. You need to tell us your story. I'll get into that in a minute then.
Fair enough. But to follow up that quick question, Halo 2 did have a Vista port for Windows Vista. So it did exist. Maybe people forgot it because it was Vista after all. But on my side of the alley, my parents were awesome and got me game consoles pretty early on. My first console was the Sega Dreamcast, and I had a few childhood games on there. But then not too long after, we also had an original Xbox, and one of the initial games that they purchased with it and just allowed me to play as a little impressionable kid was Halo Combat Evolved. And I'm like, this game is fun. And my dad's like, I kind of like Halo. And so we kind of started this little thing together where we would just play through the Halo games together. And eventually we would start playing them on Legendary Campaign. And I don't remember when Halo 2 was acquired, but one of my fondest memories is after like beating Halo 1 and 2 with my dad, we got the announcement of Halo 3 coming out, and my dad and I both went to the release day to Walmart to get Halo 3 and bring it home to play it each other. So Halo is a massive imprint on my childhood, and a series that's very dear to me.
That's awesome, Zach.
Oh man, dad goals right there.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah. My poor kids are going to have to play original Halo 1 with me.
Of course! There's no point to that. That's you're teaching them history as they should have.
Indeed. All right, well, I would like to go ahead and shift things, and we're going to have our previous host talk a lot again, because it wouldn't be a Gameboys podcast if he wasn't yapping a bunch. So please, enlighten us on the development history of this game, particularly Combat Evolved.
I promise I've actually kept this to like as brief as I felt was necessary. I do find this absolutely interesting though. So yeah, Bungie was like big on the Mac originally. That was a big thing. So it was kind of weird that they went to Microsoft. That was kind of a point I found interesting. That's also why they were on didn't get even PC ports for a while. And they were always delayed, was they were like, we want this to be like the Xbox brand. We want to come out swinging with something that was big. But yeah, going back a little bit, they originally were making, they had made a game called Marathon that was decently popular. A lot of people compare it to Halo, but the story starts a little bit later than that. They had created a fantasy RPG called Myth, was the series, right? And it was interesting. Its big claim to fame was during the arms race. Compared to others, it was had 3D polygonal maps instead of like pre-rendered or sprite-based ones. So that was kind of the big deal. But they were like, hey, this did great, we love it, but it's not as popular as some of our other stuff, and I kind of wish that, they were like, how can we make it better? And they're like, maybe if it was sci-fi. So they started working from there. So Halo started as an RTS kind of sequel to this fantasy game called Myth, and they were working on it and playing it, trying different things, and one of the things they came across in their progress was, oh, we're going to have these units called Warthogs where you can put people in them. And they actually just look like Hummers originally. But they're like, yeah, how do we make a move? Oh, we can do this and this. Oh, it's a 3D polygonal map. Why don't we just for funsies let them drive around the map instead of just click and point? And they had so much fun driving around the map. They're like, okay, new plan. This is no longer an RTS, basically. And so they had such a blast with that it originally was like a third-person shooter for a little while, with a big, heavy emphasis on, again, kind of humans versus aliens. They didn't have a lot of lore set in at first. Again, the main character, up until like a couple months before the game came out, I believe, was just called Future Soldier. So there was, again, a lot of this was very last minute, but yeah, they were working on it. People were really impressed with kind of the builds at Macworld. Actually, was where one of the original builds came out that people really liked, and people were like, this is so cool, and they loved it at E3 as well, but they were running out of money. Their passion and their their goals were kind of outstripping their money and abilities. But right as they were about to go under, like I mentioned, Microsoft approached them and went, "Hey, if you'll make this for the Xbox, we will keep you from going bankrupt." And they're like, "That sounds like a great deal to us." So, thus, more of the modern Halo was born. Again, they kind of shifted for a while to a third-person multiplayer game of humans versus aliens, with a heavy emphasis on vehicle combat. But when they realized they were on Xbox, this is actually fascinating. Fun fact, so I'm encroaching on Christian's territory a little bit, but when they were on Xbox, some of the playtesters were like, "Well, pulling the triggers of the controller, I feel like pulling the triggers on a gun, and it feels very up close and personal. So maybe we should switch the viewpoint to being up close and personal too," was kind of the thought process. And so with a little trepidation, some people were really uncertain because, again, their Marathon series had been first person. There had been ups and downs with that. That was kind of the final click, was like, well, now that we're on controller, we want to make things simple, we want to make it immersive, we are going to just make it first person. And that was basically where everything clicked into place. And the last kind of interesting dev thing is they spent so long kind of making the gameplay, making the basics, making the assets and background, that they did not have a campaign of really any kind built 3 months before it was going to ship, is my understanding. And went, holy crap, and they just, so the amazing campaign that we played through and the multiplayer were both finished basically in the last 3 months due to like incredible crunch. They just had the mechanics and the assets ready and just made a campaign out of that in like the last 3 months, which is insane to think about. So yeah, all that hard work, all that craziness, I think paid off in the end. Obviously we'll get into quality and what we think, but it is just fascinating to hear how this went from, the sequel to a fantasy RTS to the game that redefined FPS's, RTS, originally from a fantasy RTS to the game that redefined FPSs as we know it. And that's kind of the history of, the dev history of Halo.
That is awesome. The 3 months with how incredible and memorable that campaign was is very impressive and just makes me even more appreciate the early days of this company. And even in case we have not said it, the company is Bungie, by the way.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Christian, do you have any particular fun facts you'd like to share?
I do have a couple that actually tie into what Dolan was just saying with regards to development. So one of the things that kind of sparked interest in switching kind of from fantasy to science fiction was during the development, Steven Spielberg had announced the movie AI, Artificial Intelligence, and there was a big push along with that for games and just media in general, pushing more towards like futuristic sci-fi-y. So that was one of the influencing factors that made them switch it over to a sci-fi. So I thought that was interesting, and since we're talking about 3 months, cut it, and having to scramble to get the game put together, before Microsoft acquired Bungie, it was, if I'm not mistaken, they debuted and announced Halo at the Macworld conference and expo.
Yes.
So it was announced as a fully open world game with comments that the terrain would deform and react to explosions. It would be, if this had actually done what they had said it would have done, that would have been insane for the time that it came out. Because depending on the game, you still don't have that for some games. So I thought that was pretty interesting. But because they wanted it to release with the Xbox, that caused there to be such a push to get things thrown together. Like you said, the campaign, multiplayer, they had to scrap the open world concept, they had to scrap the terrain, and just kind of put it all together so that they could make that Xbox deadline. Which I thought was really interesting. And another fun fact for all those listening, some other names prior to Halo, which the name Halo was actually selected suggested by one of Bungie's artists. Paul Russell was the first one to say, hey, why don't we call it Halo? And they went from there. But prior to that, the working title was Blam with an exclamation point.
No!
BLAM exclamation point was the working title.
Oh man.
Oh man, they should not have let him cook.
Yeah.
Well, they didn't.
Yeah. I don't
Blam.
know who came up with it, but could you imagine the Blam franchise?
Blam! Combat Evolved.
Oh no.
But here's some other names that were in the running before Halo. So there was the Santa Machine.
No.
Yep. Solopsis. The Crystal Palace.
Huh?
Star Shield.
Okay.
Hard Vacuum. And Star Maker.
Okay. Some of those are better than others, but I like Halo best.
Right before it was Halo, they started leaning more towards the name Covenant just from the game.
Yeah.
But that actually was suggested by a third-party brand consultant that they called in to try to help with this.
Yeah, well, they were at Blam. They needed some help.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man. So yeah, I thought those were some pretty interesting facts.
I would agree with you there. I definitely did not know this about this.
I know they did the one other thing that came to mind when you were talking about that. Talk about last minute stuff. The main theme was also composed basically because they had to make a trailer for E3, and they were like crap, and the dude's like, I don't know, technology but religious, monks and violin, go, and then made like the most amazing opening theme ever, basically.
Yeah, it's a little sneak peek, since I was going to mention soundtrack earlier, but why not hit it now? The stuff on the soundtrack was just basically created off a synth board and synth sounds exclusively, and it was...
He did hire monks.
You did hire monks?
No, the monks singing in the opening he hired an actual like choir of monks. Yeah. That is actually true. Yeah.
A good portion of some of the like instant soundtrack, there are some moments where there's just kind of like drone choirs humming a single note. Mm-hmm. Those are synth though, so there are synth vocals that were used. But I can believe that opening, like actual people singing that one due to the quality of it. But just some dude on a synth keyboard just having fun with noises and made a soundtrack that great was pretty awesome.
It's so iconic. Me having never played Halo, being PlayStation ride or die growing up, I knew the Halo theme. Like, I would you could hear it in hallways because there were so many people in like my high school and middle school that were obsessed with it. Like they would be singing it in the bathrooms and things like that.
As it should be.
Yeah. So there you go.
I'm gonna say, listen, as a devout actual Christian, as we all are, but I'm gonna be honest, whenever I get an echoey place, I don't start singing like an actual hymn. The first thing I start humming whenever I hear the echoes is the Halo opening theme. This big echoey room, and I'm like, oh, every time. So yeah, it's that iconic.
Good stuff. All right, moving on. Let's go ahead and just start talking about our experiences in playing Halo this particular time, because I know for Christian it was his first time really getting to the campaign, but for Dolan and myself, this is a return visit to the game. So to start with you, Dolan, how is it picking up the controller, or I guess keyboard and mouse, however you played it this time, but how is it picking up Halo 1 again and going through it?
So it's funny because, semi-recently, I don't know, 2 years ago, I can't even remember if we had done the podcast and we're just doing Pokemon or if it was before the podcast. You and I went through most of what's in the Master Chief Collection together on Legendary, so this was a pretty fresh return for me. Before that, it had been several years, but this time I was like, no, I know what I'm doing this time, kind of, and half the time that was even true. But it's good fun. I really appreciate. I know we're gonna talk. I'm slightly jumping ahead, but I will jump back. I love that the Master Chief Collection lets you on the fly swap between old and new graphics. I really appreciate that. And the more I replay it, the more I appreciate that. I know all the speedrunners and like specifics can nitpick like things that this is different from the original. I understand that. But like compared to the quality of other remasters, the amount on offer that this one has really made me appreciate, because I could flip back and forth between, oh, this is a thoughtful, intentional remaster, and for all that, we'll get into this later, for all the issues I have with 343, and I know you do too, who is the company that took over Halo after Bungie, left the series. I see the remastered edition genuinely as trying to be thoughtful about its changes. It is trying to preserve what the original was trying to do and make it mesh with what comes later in the series. So I really I liked coming back to it and being able to go, oh, this is a nice refresh, but also to go back in a second and go, there's the memories, they're still there, it's okay. So that was kind of my first impression. We'll get into the details later, I know, but that's kind of what I felt on this most recent one, was like, yeah, the nostalgia's still there. But also, for people that want prettier graphics, the modernization is good too. It's not a butchering of what was there before.
Yeah, I would agree. Getting back into like my view of it, I've played through Halo 1 countless times, and I'm just as excited to go through it again. I picked up the Xbox controller because, for me, for some reason, I have to play Halo on a controller. It just feels right, man.
It's what it was
popped
designed
up
for.
The classic graphics and then just ran through the game. In my opinion, like the modern graphics do a pretty good job of like refreshing it without tainting anything. But for Halo 1 specifically, I just prefer that classic feel to the higher quality graphics. It just feels more homey, if that makes any kind of sense.
The nostalgia is strong with this one.
Oh, yeah.
Christian, which graphics did you pick? Sorry, I want to ask real quick.
I found myself most often playing on the original graphics. It just kind of felt right, having not much experience with the franchise. But I did really value just having the option to toggle between the two. And I wish more remakes and remasters did that today. Like, I know you can download mods to do it, but if it was included in more remasters, that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah.
Well, I can promise you one thing. The next Halo game still has the feature.
Nice.
But yeah, so getting into like more in depth about your first experience playing the game, we can start going into the first level, Christian. But like your experience in playing this game, because first a little bit of context. We couldn't all play the same campaign together as we were hoping, because the original Halo game, and I think this will be the same case for Halo 2 if I'm not mistaken, you could only play co-op with one other person. So we kind of had to split up into two groups. I ran through the game with Christian, and then Dolan ran through the game with his buddy. We can cut it out if we're not supposed to say his name, but we're buddy Joseph. And so we had two different parties of two going on. And so with that little context, go ahead and tell us your initial thoughts on the first mission, Christian. How'd you feel getting into the game?
I blew up so many times.
In the first mission? Where?
In every mission.
Oh, wow, okay.
There was a lot of boom booms.
Yeah, I often would... So like, I was playing mouse and keyboard, and I, rookie mistake, sometimes would forget which button is the grenade and just throw it. And it would like stick to the wall next to me, and I blew up a lot. A lot of it was self-inflicted. I think on the first two missions, I killed myself like 6 times. So that was impressive. And I think I also killed Austin at least twice.
A few times.
But yeah. But I mean, it was fun. I really enjoyed it. I really loved the cheering whenever you would get like a headshot.
Yes, the
yeah, you
grunt
gotta explain
birthday
that.
party skull.
Yeah.
Explain skulls real quick. Sorry.
Yeah, so skulls, and I cannot remember. I'm pretty sure. No, wait, I don't think there were originally skulls in the Halo 1 game when it was first came out. I think that only started in Halo 2. We might have to look that up and actually like pop up something on the screen confirming or denying. But skulls in the Halo games, because it's a running trend through all of them at this point, are little collectible pickups that you would find hidden around the maps typically. And then each skull would have a specific game modifier that you can turn on. There are two categories. There's either score affecting skulls. Like for instance, there's a skull called Iron, where if that skull is turned on, whenever you or even a co-op person dies, instead of waiting for someone to respawn, it always goes back to the last checkpoint. So that would actually add a positive multiplier to your score in the end if you have those kind of difficulty style skulls on. And then there's non-difficulty affecting ones like Grunt Birthday Party, which is our absolute favorite, where you shoot a grunt in the head and confetti pops out, and then all you can hear are grunts just cheering, "Yay!" And we had that on for our run, because who doesn't have that on for their run? And it's a
Favorite
great
part
time.
of the game.
So touching up a little bit on your experience, Christian, specifically like into the gameplay mechanics, like the two weapon, the multiple grenade types, just kind of like how the game plays. How did it feel playing that to you?
I mean, I didn't really have any issue with gameplay style. Like I've played first person shooters before and ones where you only have a limited number of weapons. So I feel like it was pretty intuitive to just kind of switch between the two. I did like just how you could like kill an enemy and take their weapon. I found myself using the Needler a lot just because I liked explosions, which was also very bad for me because I exploded a lot. So most often in the game, I feel like I was carrying either a rocket launcher and a Needler, or one or the other, which in some of those tight hallways made it a little difficult for both you and me. But
Yeah.
we made it. And I didn't realize that if I shot it, they could stick to you as well. So I wanted to once again just apologize for that.
Oh no, you're fine. At this point, I'm really curious because we really early on established that anything that explodes was just labeled boom boom in our run. And so I'm just curious how many times you and I have said boom boom during our run through the entire campaign. It's probably near the triple digits.
I don't know, but I think next Halo run through we need to somehow keep a tally. I don't know how we do that, but we just need to have a counter going on the screen whenever we say boom boom.
Oh, poor Dolan.
I'm not doing that.
We'll just have to try to keep a running total for like each session that we do.
Okay.
All right. Well, it's the same question about the mechanics. Dolan, what did you feel about it? Because were you on controller for this or mouse and keyboard?
I bounced around a little bit in both because we did this over a couple sessions. I think I primarily played on keyboard this time because I think I primarily played on controller last time, and I just wanted to see. It still works pretty well. Actually, I will argue, I have two thoughts. One is that I think this is one of the best controller games. I hate FPSs in with controllers usually, but this one has a very generous kind of auto aim and auto lock, and it doesn't feel snappy. It feels much more, I don't know what the right word is, like
Fluid?
Gracious? Yeah, fluid's a good word too. It doesn't feel gross. I don't feel like I'm using it, even though if I stop and think about it, it's obviously there, right? But I also enjoy mouse and keyboard, and I will say, despite how generous that auto aim is, the game is just a lot easier with mouse and keyboard. It was designed as a controller game, and that's probably the intended difficulty and how it should be. But on mouse and keyboard, it is kind of like bang, 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 bang. But that aside, yeah, the general gameplay mechanics, I really find it interesting. It did a lot of things that kind of retroactively, if you come back from playing modern games, you're like, I don't know, this plays like a shooter. Yeah, that's because it set the standard for a lot of things. Shields working as a sort of regenerative health to make you getting in and out of combat. I mean, that's COD copied that, everything copied that. It's weird to find a shooter that now has like standard health where you have to find health pickups. Regenerating health is the norm. And this is what, even though you can even see, this is the only Halo game that under that shield has some actual health. Because that was still kind of a leftover half step from that was the standard that Doom and everything before it was. I also think it was very intelligent of them to keep the pace up to only have 2 weapon slots. I love large arsenals of weapons, but again, that involves a lot of scouring levels for ammo. And this is nope, you shoot till you run out, then you grab someone else's gun, and the name of the game is improvisation. And I think that really keeps the flow up here. Even in this opening level, you really get a feel for okay, no, you just gotta keep moving forward. You gotta grab what you've got and just figure it out and use it. And we can go over this a bit, but the arsenal of weapons that are easily available is actually not overwhelming. The game has a lot of guns, but you tend to find a lot of battle rifles, a lot of whatever the machine gun is, I forget that one, the basic machine gun.
Assault rifle.
Yeah, the assault rifle, a lot of the kind of grunt pistols, and then a lot of kind of the
Plasma rifle.
Whatever the alien. Yeah, plasma rifles. You'll find other things like needlers and rocket launchers and snipers, but they're scattered around kind of rarely. Those 4 are kind of be the ones that you tend to run into the most, 3 or 4, and with a decent bit of Magnum too. And so that never makes it feel overwhelming, because I never feel mentally I need to juggle, oh my gosh, there's 20 weapons I could have at any time. No, it's there's usually not more than 4 hanging about. Especially per an area of a mission, so it always feels manageable to kind of get in the groove with the weapon before you're forced to change. So I really appreciated that.
Yeah. You mentioned battle rifle. Funny enough, that's not in this game. That's the next game.
Well,
we haven't gotten that far. But
I meant the assault rifle. I was saying it wrong. It's the machine gunny one. I forget.
Fair enough. Yeah, the assault rifle. But spoiler alert, battle rifle, one of the best weapons in Halo ever. It is phenomenal. But yeah, my experience with the gameplay mechanics, I do really love the feel of picking up weapons as you go, or exchanging weapons as you fight to, mix things up. Some of my favorite moments are just when you chuck a bunch of grenades or blow something up, and then bodies and guns are flying everywhere, and you just catch one in the air and just continue the carnage. It's I blew you up. Your gun is mine now. I'm gonna kill your friends with it.
Oh, can I add something to that you just mentioned about bodies flying? Something that's interesting about this game that I don't see in other games, now I don't play as many FPS as you do, but something that I always feel is uniquely Halo, is when you drop someone, like a body, you kill them, they drop all their weapons to the ground, that's normal, but their grenades are reactive. If you throw a grenade and you're a corpse that had grenades, those grenades are going to fly off and explode and could cause more deaths that cause more explosions. You get a chain reaction of a bunch of grenades going off, and I can't think of another FPS that does it quite the same way Halo does.
Yeah, I don't play a lot that has that. That's just kind of a Halo thing in my mind. I'm sure there are other FPS games that have things especially later on ones, but that's always been a fun thing about Halo, is throwing grenades, and you look down and wait, those are other grenades. Run!
Yeah.
Or when I hear Christian throw a grenade, and I'm thinking, oh, this is going to be a much bigger boom boom than I hoped. And explode.
And you just hear me on the mic, boom boom, boom boom.
Yeah, but it's also a satisfying way to just take down a bunch of more enemies. You kill one grunt, they drop a couple grenades, you throw one, you kill the 3 elites and 5 jackals that were with them.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the gameplay mechanics, incorporating the melee into there, and also having the fun thing about, hitting something in the back being pretty much an instant kill was pretty fun.
Oh, yeah.
So you can kind of mix things up, or if you happen to sneak, even though stealth isn't really emphasized in Halo, there are moments that are designed where you get rewarded if you do a little bit stealthier approach. There's some moments where grunts are just sleeping and elites are just on normal patrols, and you can take out an entire section of the game just by properly walking around and punching them all in the back over and over again. And that can be a nice fun of pace, but it also doesn't like take away if you just want to go in guns blazing. Doesn't really make anything harder. It's just another fun option if you want to be a little silly about it, which is always a good time.
Yeah.
And I played the whole thing on controller because that's just what it felt correct. And it's just, I think, and I can't really speak very mechanically on it, but I think the way that they designed the player movement is what makes the playing on a controller and the aiming and everything feel a lot more natural, because it almost feels slightly slower, like especially like when you're jumping, or the momentum system kind of feels a little bit like you have moon gravity, which I think feels really well on a controller. Did any of you experience kind of that feeling?
I did. I enjoyed jumping. I found myself jumping a lot. I do feel like jumping is faster than just regular walking, and I will argue with anyone that says otherwise.
Yeah, I mean, I'm instantly having flashbacks or flash forwards, depending on whenever we get to it, of Castlevania. There's a lot of commitment to your jumps. There's not a lot of, you pick a direction and you just go, I'm here now, and then it gives you time to like focus on shooting, because you're not doing a lot of, maneuverability midair. The other thing where a controller definitely feels in mind is, I think the moving around controls for Master Chief feel just fine on keyboard, but where I feel it in my soul is the vehicles, which are scattered everywhere. Not in this first level, so we'll get into that more, but like anytime you're in a vehicle, I'm just sitting here going, I wish I had a control stick, whenever I'm not. So it definitely feels like, yeah, this was a controller first game. Well, and is very much feels like one, and I think that's great. But I don't want to knock the mouse and keyboard. I wanted to go through this time with mouse and keyboard again to kind of like make sure, I was like, is this playable? Yes, it is. It's perfectly playable and very fun. If you don't want to do controller, don't try and force yourself. But if you look at the little nits and bits and kind of the quirks of it, it is very obvious this is a controller game that they adjusted to be playable for mouse and keyboard.
Yeah. All right. Now that we got that, let's go ahead and just talk about real briefly our thoughts on the missions themselves, mission structure, and then like the map design on top of that. Going back a little bit to something that was mentioned earlier, I think it was Christian with the fun fact that it was announced to be an open world game originally. Which kind of got me thinking about the level design. There are quite a few bits of the level that do kind of feel still fairly open, and that brings me back to Mission 2. Like things, it's either called Halo or Arriving on Halo.
It is Halo. Yeah. I have it looked up. It's Halo, yeah.
Yeah, so going on that one, you just essentially crash land on your pod after escaping the pillar bottom, and then you're just in this kind of big open canyon, and you're just told, go find your friends, go save people. And then you kind of also get options on, like, you bump into the first crowd, and then you save them, and then they give you your first vehicle, the Warthog, which is incredible and iconic and one of my favorite vehicles in Halo of all time. Drives really well, and then it's like, all right, go find your friends, and then you end up reaching this little place where it's like you can kind of roam about and pick which people you go and save first, which is pretty awesome. How did you guys feel about that kind of level design or mission of that one? Let's start with Christian. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I liked the level design. I didn't have, like, in terms of it being like open and you kind of having options, I didn't really feel like that was difficult. Like, everything was pretty straightforward for me, but I was also running alongside a pro.
Yeah. I was about to say, I think you had a little bit of help on that one.
So, like, from my perspective, all the levels were very straightforward, and you were pretty much guided on where you need to go. But I don't think that's the case. I think it's just Austin is very guided on where we should go because he has much wisdom. But like the map design and that mission as well as the other missions, I really enjoyed.
I'll chime in on this because I was the guidee, not the guidee. on mine, because I was playing with Joseph, and he's played it like once before. And like I said, it played recently, but I do not have this game memorized like Austin did. And so I actually felt like it was the perfect amount of freedom, because despite not having it memorized, I got turned around I think one time. I think I accidentally one time kind of skipped over a crew and had to come back around. And that didn't feel like annoying to me. It was like, cool. Like, it made it feel like my choices mattered without making me feel like I needed to backtrack 20 minutes to like go fix my problem, you know? Mm-hmm. So I really like the amount. It is just open enough to make it feel like the direction you're going matters, and you can pick a direction and hit things in the order you want and backtrack how you want without feeling like, oh gosh, I'm flying around forever. I'll also add, jumping a little bit ahead, I think this game has I think the second half falls a little bit short of doing this well. But the game overall, and especially the first half, has a great ratio of kind of open sections to kind of corridor crawling. You really get a back and forth of both in different scenery. Once we get to a certain point that we'll deal with later, things do start to get a little samey, but it never becomes egregious, and overall, I always feel like each level, each section is just about as long as it needs to be, and is just the pace change that it needs to be, either opening up for a while and offering some options, or shrinking back down and getting a little bit more claustrophobic, just in time to keep it from getting kind of boring. The pacing is immaculate.
Yeah, I was gonna, since you brought it up, I was definitely gonna bring up the perfect balance between open world, more open, and then corridor shooting, because that is one thing that I definitely agree that this game hammers hard. And then, the second half of the game, it gets a little bit more linear because they're trying to... It might be part of that 3-month rush thing where they're just trying to, okay, we got to hurry up and finish this campaign. We'll make it a bit more linear just to kind of finish it up. But it also kind of... I think it helps a little bit because when the kind of plot that's in here, because it's not heavy on the plot for their first game, but when it's kind of trying to reach like their ending, it kind of tries to structure itself a little bit more linear, and then I feel like the missions reflect that a little bit more.
I was gonna say, aren't 3 of the levels basically, and they're all in like the last half? I think 3 of the last 4 levels are just repurposed levels from earlier in the campaign.
Yes, yeah.
And they do a good job recontextualizing them, so I don't sit there and think, oh, this is a reskin, and the story justifies it very well. It's not something I would even think, I never think about it while playing it, but since we're sitting here podcasting, talking about it, and I looked up the history, it is pretty clear during that 3 months of like, crap, we're running tight, reuse the levels.
Yeah, and it works pretty well because like you're in a little bit more familiar environment, but I also feel like those levels amp up the chaos of the enemies and difficulty a bit. So it's like I'm in a familiar setting, which is nice because these enemies are cracked now.
Yeah.
So it's still a little bit fresh. But going through the missions, Christian, are there any particular missions or map layouts that you would say really stuck out in your mind, either in a positive or a negative light? And then, like, which one might have been your favorite?
I really liked the library.
What? Are you insane?
Please, do tell.
Do you like pain? Do you enjoy suffering?
Oh, he'll love Halo 2.
I felt like it was just like a nice change of pace from just like...
Change of pace? Yes, it was a chainsaw to the foot.
I kind of enjoyed being chased by an overwhelming horde. And
He's gonna love 3.
Okay, good. I felt like it added like a glimpse of horror to the game.
Yeah.
As opposed to being just like a sci-fi shooter, you know? Because like the creatures of the Flood is a really interesting concept. I don't know if I'm jumping ahead on this, but the Flood, at least from my understanding, it's basically like space zombies that take on the knowledge of whoever they turn, basically. And I thought that was a pretty interesting concept of how like they were needing to keep them contained in this in the Halo and not let them escape. So I thought the concept of them in general was nice, but I also just liked the level of the library, because it's like I feel like, especially if I was playing it by myself, it'd be kind of eerie, just like walking through the library and then like a horde just comes out of nowhere. Like there wasn't as much of a horror aspect because I knew Big Strong Austin was there with me. And he knew where they were going to come from, but I could like that was a very exciting level for me, and based on y'all's reaction, I guess I'm looking forward to Halo 3.
Well, Halo 3 is fantastic
wait.
all around, but I'm just going to interject a little bit here before Dolan goes. Just commenting on the Flood. Yeah, the Flood, basically a hive mind parasite zombie thing that, like, not only did they just kind of get that knowledge, but pretty much every single piece of Flood get that knowledge, and they could just, any sentient thing that they kill, they can just reanimate, and that's just another part of their number. So, like, I'm going to steal a line from a later game, but one single Flood spore could annihilate an entire species.
Yeah, okay, so I have two questions. One, Christian.
Yes.
As we're going through Resident Evil, and you've continuously said they're not scary, is the Flood scarier than zombies in Resident Evil, or monsters in Resident Evil?
The sheer number of the Flood was intimidating.
No.
Just because, like, you know, there's a lot of them, and like, I enjoyed like those types of games. Like I've played Left
4 Dead.
Have I played? I've played a couple levels of Left 4 Dead.
Yeah.
But I mean, Call of Duty Zombies, I always played a lot of, and that was a lot of like hordes coming after you, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
It wasn't. I didn't find myself feeling like scared. So I mean, they're both different games.
They are.
For those of you at home, just so you know, Halo and Resident Evil are in fact different games. So don't get confused by the tank controls. You're playing two different games.
Would the Flood be scarier if you had to play tank controls in Halo?
Oh my word.
Gosh.
Yes. That would be terrifying. That would be so bad. Why would you even suggest that? Somebody, if we ever make it big, someone's gonna listen to this and make it. Like, don't say that. That's something that shouldn't be uttered.
It's called Resident Evil 4, and you're gonna love it. It's gonna be your favorite in the series. Oh. Anyway, even though I know you already played it. Okay, so before we get to me, I did want to ask, because his favorite was the library. Was there a level in particular that you didn't like before I go?
I don't think I had any levels that I was like, oh, this is bad, or this level was not enjoyable.
Okay, neat. Alright, well, I've already said this much, so I'll start with the one I didn't like. It's the library is the only level I don't like in this, and it's not awful. Like if there was a game of levels that was the quality of the library, I'd still say that was a pretty good shooter. I think it is a pace breaker, and in a way it's supposed to be. So, like, narratively, it's doing what it's supposed to do, because there is before the Flood and there's after the Flood. We can talk about it in a bit. The first half of the game is like, hey, we crash landed on this Halo, we are fighting with the aliens called the Covenant over it, and we're kind of like a little insurgency, just trying to stop them from taking over this thing. We don't even really know what it is. And then it's like, oops, space zombies. And everyone changes from like fighting over this to, crap, don't let the space zombies kill everyone. And that's the entire game after that. That is the whole second half. And that's a great narrative pace changer. I love, because right about when you're like, okay, I've got the Covenant figured out, is the whole game just going to be we're bickering with them? No, space zombies. That's a great narrative trick. but the library in particular is like, I kind of feel I'm gonna say it. I think it is all the it's not bad, but it is all the weakest parts of Halo put into one level. It is filled with tight corridors, few to no vehicles, I believe. I think you're just
no vehicles at all.
Inside. Yeah, so there's no vehicles. You are very limited in what weapons you can steal from enemies, because yes, sometimes the Floods pick up guns and things like that, but a lot of them just melee you, or just are walking bombs or little ticks that try and, pop on you. So there's a lot less weapon variety as well. This is the most copy-pasted feeling level that's in a row, because it's right in the middle. Because again, you kind of go through the first half, and a lot of the second half is going through earlier levels in backwards. But this level is in the middle, so you just go halfway through it, and then turn around and go back through exactly what you just did. And it's just... It's still the Halo combat, which is fun. If you're really good, which I'm not, you can still keep that flow state, but most of the game has a very good sense of momentum in the combat. The developers talk about this thing called like the 30-second battle, where it's like each fight lasts about 30 seconds, then you gear up, and then you run to the next one, it's about 30 seconds, and you get that flow state going. I feel like this is the only level that does not have that flow state at all. You're either an expert or like just a madman, and you're constantly running. There is no break. It's not 30 seconds. It's a 15-minute sprint. Mm-hmm. Or you are playing safe and careful, and it's a 30-minute slog through a never-ending wave of enemies. And I feel like Halo 1's greatest asset is its combat flow, and I feel like this is the only level where it's just completely missing, along with the vehicles, which are also completely missing. So it's not bad, but I do feel it's the weakest level in the game, even though I agree with all the reasons you mentioned narratively. Part of it is the narrative is old to me, I guess, so it has less of an impact maybe. So maybe the narrative impact is enough to carry you through, but like gameplay-wise, which is mostly what I'm here for, on my 20th run through, I'm like, oh, every time I hit the library, I just want to cry a little. Because I like all the levels after it, and I like all the levels before it. And it's not bad, but I do, especially when I'm taking someone new, as I was this time, who doesn't know all the things, keeping that person alive, because that's the other thing. Yeah. It's such tight corridors. You never get to like other things. If so, your partner dies, you can run behind a corner and respawn them pretty quickly, pretty okay. But in this place, it's like so hard to get someone to respawn because there's just constant enemies. So anyway, it's a big rant about what I don't like, but I want to talk real quick before I quit about my favorite level, which is the Silent Cartographer. I adore. If I think of one level in Halo 1, it may be Halo, actually, now that I think on it, because it's very iconic, just the second one we talked about. But the one I want to replay the most, if I'm just going to pick one, Silent Cartographer. If the library is all the weakest parts of Halo 1, Silent Cartographer is almost all the strongest parts of Halo 1. I guess there technically aren't Flood in it, which do add another faction, but most of the things I love most about Halo 1 are in Silent Cartographer. Starts off in a big open beach. There's a little bit of corridor crawling sprinkled in to keep the level interesting. You get lots of Marines around, so you get to see the AIs interacting and feel like it's not just Doom, where you're the one guy facing a billion alien demons. You feel like you are part of a force, humanity trying to take back this island. You get lots of fun snark from Cortana here. This is where you start really figuring out the mystery at this point in the story, where you start to figure out what the Halo kind of might be. It's not the full reveal, but you start to get some breadcrumbs. I really dig that, and make some narrative forward momentum. There are, I feel like, maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like there's more weapon variety here than many of the other places, and more interesting ways to use those weapons. You see every type of enemy in spades. It's just a really fun time. If you're ever, you should play Halo. Just say it everywhere. You should all play Halo. But if you're ever not sure, or you're trying to break a friend into it and they don't want to commit to playing the game, have a playthrough part of Silent Cartographer. I feel like it is quintessential Halo fun in a box.
Yeah, I would mostly agree with all that. In regards to the missions, for me, the one that is technically the lowest, sorry, Christian, is the library. And it's just like...
That's a common opinion, right?
I think so, yeah. Just kind of like it's a really common opinion that the Silent Cartographer is most people's favorite. It's not mine, but it is like almost tied for my favorite. But yeah, the library, That one is just a rough beatdown of just like running through the same hallway for a long time. Sometimes an elevator ride of just, it's one of the things that's kind of bothering, because we were playing on heroic, and especially on legendary, this is significantly worse. But yeah, the Flood just have random guns. Sometimes they'll just have a rocket launcher, and you just turn a corner and you blow up, and it's like, go back and do it again. Or you turn a corner and you just get shotgunned in the face. Do it again. We had that happen to us a lot, Christian.
We did.
That was the level we had to restart checkpoints the most, because it's just brutal. And
brutal fun.
The zombies should not be that good with a shotgun, man. They're like Chris Redfield level of shotgun power.
I'm alone.
Well, I mean, I can understand what you were talking about. You enjoy that intensity, while it's just like, I enjoy the other, like, the strong suits of Halo more than just that intensity mission. But it definitely is that, and there are going to be missions to come that have some similar intensity to them. So you will get to have that high again. But my favorite mission is the one right before the library, the introduction to the Flood. I find that whole, like, you enter this building and all of a sudden it's like, everything's dead. And just like horrible blood splatters along the wall of the Covenant and humans, and you're just like, what the heck happened here? And then you run into that Marine that's losing his mind shooting at you, just like alluding to what you're about ready to discover. And then you reach that room and you get the little Marine playback and just like watching the events unfold, and then you get introduced to the new enemy. That's the most memorable mission of Halo for me, and just is always my top mission. I love that narrative change, and just how it plays out is so fun.
Yeah. That's a good level too.
Yeah. Well, real briefly, we'll just touch on, is there any particular strategies that any of you like try to employ this time around? For me, the strategy of running this game with Christian was get Christian the boom boom and hope you don't go boom boom. And that's kind of how we went through the whole game. But I'm curious, Nolan, what kind of, did you guys try anything unique? Any kind of particular strategies that you find working, or how did you tackle that?
Our strategy was to try and not get behind you, because you guys were so fast. And so there was a lot of like I mentioned, the library is either like stay back and push back the waves, or just run like madmen. And you guys, even going slowly, which y'all were, are so fast that we were constantly like, go, 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 run, avoid them. We don't have to kill these guys. We can just run past them. Let the Marines die. Go, 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 go. Turn the corner, shoot them. And so we played the entire game. We were still slower than you, but us trying to speed run was still slower than you guys going through at a casual pace, because Austin, you especially, are so good at this game. So a lot of our strategies were like, I'm rushing in and I'm trying to John Wick this. And Joseph's a good gamer, to be clear. I'm actually not sure what his FPS credentials are, but like he is a experienced gamer of many genres. I've played Halo a little bit more than him, so I at least have like the map knowledge better than him. But I don't want to pretend like he was like an anchor on my heel at all. He was a very good partner, but I was the one running the show because I knew the level layout and what things were happening more than he did. And so I was like, okay, we're going here, we're gonna throw grenades, run. So most of our strategies were just like lob as many grenades as we can in small corridors, and just keep running and jumping and shooting at everything. And then on occasion, if something big comes up, I'd have him distract it and I'd try and get behind it if like a hunter or like a bunch of jackals showed up. I don't think those were good strategies. I don't feel like they paid off, because y'all were still faster than us in basically every way, but it kept us from like falling too far behind most of the time.
Fair enough. And as we go and talk about like the strategies, there's one thing that I forgot to mention that I'm sad that I forgot. The final mission of this game incorporated one of the most memorable sections of a game, like an FPS game that Halo kind of just started and does one more time even better. But the final section of the last mission, it's kind of funny to think about it, but it's a warthog run. Like you detonate the engines, and then you have to get to extraction. So you're on the ship, and then so you just get into a car and just start driving through the entire ship as the ship's about ready to blow up. I just made the choice of letting Christian drive the entire time for his first time on the warthog run, and Tell me how that felt, Christian, because that was probably the most entertaining section playing the game with you. So what was going through your mind during that?
My mind was, get out. Oh, I hit a wall. Oh, I ran into a pole. Get out. I'm going to have to restart this. But we made it. Even though I flipped the Warthog 3 times and we had to like jump and it like forced us out.
3 or 4.
Made it. Yeah.
It was. We made it with less than a second on the countdown. It was by the split of a hair that we beat that first try. It was incredible.
That's picture perfect. And that reminds me, even though they are introduced earlier, about the same time the Flood are introduced, but I did forget to mention, I keep saying there's 3 factions. There is a 4th. You do get the little robot Guilty Spark Sentinels, which are another faction to consider too.
Oh, yeah, I hate them.
Yeah, so there's a lot of dynamic fighting that makes you feel like you're a part of a world and not like you're going through the Doom maps, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, but that mission is always good. I love the Warthog Run section. Unfortunately, this will spoiler alert, we don't get it for the second game, but the third game's like, we should bring that back and then up the ante, so you have some stuff to look forward to.
Spoiler alert for that too, and for the dev section, the third game is just the end of the second game because they ran out of time and they just cut it in half. It's, okay, sorry, I know I'm jumping slightly ahead, but it is bizarre because Halo 2 is on the same system as Halo 1, so it feels like Halo 1 in a lot of ways, but it is very clearly the first half of Halo 3, or Halo 3 is the second half of Halo 2. So it's such an odd game because, narratively, it is much more closely linked to 3 than it is to 1, but, especially if you're playing on the classic graphics and, the limitations, the level design, it feels way closer to Halo 1 than it does to 3. So 2 is a bizarre game, sorry.
Yeah. But yeah, so moving on about the gameplay of the map designs, we'll just briefly touch on the differences between playing the classic and the remaster. I'll start off. I really and this is one of the very few pluses and wins that I will give 343. But the remasters, this is the most pure definition of remaster. This and when they do Halo 2, they keep to the same principle. The most pure definition of a remaster I've ever played. It's just an upscale in audio quality and visual quality without I know they added a couple skulls to the Halo combat, so it's technically adjusting the gameplay, but if you completely discount and forget the skulls exist, the mechanical gameplay of Halo 1 Classic and Halo 1 Remaster is practically identical. It just runs off the exact same thing. You just get in a little button to toggle between, do you want to see it in prettier mode or classic mode? And I absolutely adore that about how they did that for this game. Dolan, what's your thoughts?
So, I was going to say, again, a little bit. Now, the Master Chief Collection has had years and years and years and years and years of glitches, and I'm gonna be honest, they continued. How many times did we run into something where we tried to connect and the level just wouldn't start or would crash immediately? So
that's a whole can of words in itself.
Yeah.
I had the benefit of actually playing Halo 1 Remastered. That's an Xbox 360 CD, so without Master Chief Collection interfering with it.
Yeah, well,
it's
that's true.
A faithful remaster.
Well, I want to talk about the fact that the only way really to get it on PC and on a lot of modern systems now is the Master Chief Collection, and that comes with a lot of glitches. I think that's worth mentioning, is that even years and years later, there are still big problems, especially with online multiplayer, that were fixed back on, I guess Halo 1 didn't have it, but on Halo 2, on Xbox Live ran smoother, I feel like, than a lot of what the Master Chief. Now, that being said, once you get past kind of those connection issues, the game experience itself is. I mean, again, I'm not a speedrunner. I'm a casual. Am I a middlecore fan? Am I a casual? I'm not a hardcore fan. Is the point. But I've played this game a number of times, and it doesn't feel off. Sometimes you play a remaster, and you're like, this feels kind of vaguely off. Like they didn't quite get the physics right, or some of the glitches are wrong. A great example is the Sonic remasters. Like a lot of times the physics are very mildly off, and that causes shorts or skips or like automated sections to break. And it feels very obvious, like you're playing and like a loop doesn't finish. You just get stuck and fall off, and you're like, this is wrong, they messed it up. Not once did I feel that in the Master Chief Collection. I never felt like, oops, they broke the physics, and now that Warthog just flings itself into the canyon during that cutscene, or something like that. Which is, unfortunately, very common in remasters these days. But connection issues aside, and weird, all of us experienced at least once, I think, it uninstalling itself, and or breaking your microphone or
oh man, I don't want to think about that again.
So, like,
every time I launch that, I have to like audio change it.
So again, the Master Chief Collection, which is how you play this game, is like a janky, abysmal mess with like some weird games as a service like bonus objectives. It sucks, but if you can get past that and get to the actual game, especially if you're playing single player and don't have to worry that much about it, like it's an immaculate experience. I do not feel bad. I do not feel like, go emulate the original. No, this is great. I recommend it to anyone. It makes me happy. Like I said earlier on, I click the original graphics and I go, oh good, the memories are still there. And I can't ask for more than that.
What about you, Christian? What do you have to say about the remaster?
I mean, I for the most part played on the original graphics, but every once in a while I would toggle between the two. I felt like, I felt like, at least for my little toggling, I mean, it looked good. I can't say much because when I was playing on the original, so like it would just be like if there was kind of a slow part, we were just kind of walking through a hall, or like we had just taken out enemies and we were about to hop back in the Warthog or whatever, I would switch just to see, what does this area look like? Oh, it looks more modern. And then I would just switch back. So I didn't really play, I don't think, any on the remastered, so I don't know if I can have much of an opinion. I did feel like, and maybe it was like a brightness settings on my computer, but I felt like it was easier to see in some of the like darker areas in the original version compared to the remastered. I feel like they darkened some of the areas to make it more realistic, and like harder to kind of see everything in some of the levels. But again, that was just from like a short glance, so I sadly don't have much to say. I'll try to do better next time, guys.
Oh no, you're fine. It's fine. It's I would agree that the shading is definitely different in the remaster, so some areas are definitely darker. That is 100% true.
It makes the flashlight more useful.
Indeed.
I forgot there was a flashlight.
Well, there you go.
I kept trying to remind you, I'm like, use your flashlight here.
But then I would be like, wait a second, is this the button? And then I would blow you up.
Yeah, and then the boom boops happen. Yeah, so great remaster in my opinion, phenomenal. So this is kind of mainly just a Christian question, since Bella and I have played through the games multiple times and know what Halo 2 is coming, but do you have anything you're looking forward to, Christian, or any kind of predictions on what potentially might happen for Halo 2?
I'm looking forward to seeing where this game series goes. I mean, Halo is so widely praised. I don't know if I've ever heard anyone say anything like overtly negative about the Halo series. Like
as a whole?
Maybe I haven't talked to many people.
There is a distinct line where people praise and then people dog on.
Yeah. Halo 4 onward has a mixed reception, I guess we'll say.
You see,
wife and children.
Yeah. Most of the conversations that I have had about Halo, at least that I can remember, are before 4 came out.
The Bungie era Halo.
Yeah, I in like growing up in middle school and high school, my best friend was obsessed with the Halo genre, so he would talk with me about it, but we never got a chance to play it together. And that was pre-4, so I don't know about 4. So I'm sorry if I made a faux pas there. But I'm curious to see where we go from here. I want to make like an absolute absurd guess that I know isn't going to happen. Like Cortana's going to get a body and try to kill us or something, but I don't think that's really going to happen. I just wanted to make something absurd. Wait, does that happen?
Not in Halo 2.
Does it ever? Did I just guess the plot to 4?
I have to play the game
No.
to find out.
No. I mean, a little minor spoiler. There's parts of that are definitely true in what I consider to be the absolute worst Halo game ever made, which I don't know if we'll get to play because it's not in the Master Chief Collection and you can't buy it. So we might not even get to experience that, but it's hilarious how that prediction is technically correct, but not for the upcoming game.
Oh man!
I like how Christian's like, "What's the dumbest thing I could think of?" Plot of Halo 5.
That's hilarious.
I love it.
That is something we have to short right there.
Okay, I have a plot, not a prediction, but a plot thought, Austin.
Yeah.
As you as the Halo lore master, I know they explain stuff a little bit better in like supplementary materials and like later games, but one thing that has always bothered me, even though I like it so much, I'll get over it for like how much it makes the game more interesting. But why the Falk did the ancient race of alien like Uber Lords or whatever frigging like be like, you know what we should do? Here's like the worst thing possibly imaginable, like sentient, mushroom space zombies with like an interconnected telepathic network. Why don't we just like keep a couple of those in the old locker here? Just, we wouldn't want to like remove that entirely from the galaxy. That'd be stupid. Why were they stored on that gosh darn Halo to be broken open by idiots like us?
I wish I had the exact answer, but I don't think I actually delved into that particular part of the lore.
It bothers me so much. Like, I'm sure the answer is like, it would be wrong to genocide a sentient life. We should, we should contain it, but we shouldn't. But that's stupid when it's
they were
like...
definitely, that was not the answer, because that's the purpose of the rings was to genocide them, practically.
Well, and everyone else.
Yeah, they
exactly.
did not have those morals. See, that's why I don't like the 343 era when they start digging in, and this probably happened in the books before that, but when the game started digging into, like, bringing up Forerunner lore, it really weakened things, because I preferred it when it was a bit more just kind of ominous in the background and just kind of mysterious kind of things. You don't have to try to think too hard about it. It's just fun assets to interact with, and it just should have stayed that way.
I don't know the exact details. Okay, because it's like, I don't know, man. It doesn't matter. That's one dumb plot. It's so we can have space zombies and it's great. Like, if you think about Resident Evil, it's like, how the fuck do zombies actually infect everyone? That doesn't make any logical sense. That's why all those games start like, it's like the city's overrun. We don't get to how the city was overrun, because if you stop and think about it too long, it's stupid. And I'm sure it's the same deal here. But it does bug me a little bit that these like space gods were like, well, we'll just keep the zombies in like this cage here. It will be fine. No one will be bothered. So, yeah, I don't know. That's my only lore thing. Okay, I'll say this. I really like Cortana as a character. I think an AI companion is a great, because they made Master Chief just enough of a character so he's not a silent protagonist, which I appreciate, but they wanted someone to chat and give instructions and talk a lot more than he was going to. I think an AI companion was great. She is snarky and fun, and I like her. I like Sergeant Johnson. He is good fun. I'm looking forward to see more of him. I liked Keyes. I wish we got more time with him. I know he's just kind of straight soldier man, but the implied history during some of their conversations earlier on is great, and you feel the weight of when you got to punch through his skull and steal a stupid biochip. Like, that hurts, man. So.
Yeah, I gotta chime in because I can't believe I forgot this as well. There's so much good in Halo, it's hard to cover everything. But speaking of characters, Sergeant Johnson, there are two things I gotta go over. One, he gives a speech at the very beginning of the game to a bunch of Marines as you're about ready to go to Halo. And each speech is completely different depending on what difficulty you're playing on. And I absolutely adore it. And they keep... Halo keeps up these things where they have like different things that happen that are typically on the funny side of things, depending on your difficulty. And
the Halo 2 speech is immaculate. Almost all versions
glorious.
of it too.
We will cover that when we play that game, but it is some of the best. But another,
if God
and I'm
is
gonna
love, you can call me Cupid.
I know what ladies like.
Yeah, just wait till you get there, man. That's not even the best version of it. The Rock and the Sticks. The Rock and the Sticks.
Oh man.
But another thing that I'm gonna approach a little bit on the fun fact territory from Christian, but we didn't play the game on Legendary, but if you did beat the game on Legendary, as you're escaping the Pillar of Autumn, there is a secret cutscene that plays there where you see Sergeant Johnson struggling for a rifle with an elite right next to the ship about ready to blow up. And then it just starts exploding slowly, and they see you flying off, and then Sergeant Johnson just looks at the elite, hold me, baby. And they just hug it out as the ring explodes.
Yes. That is real.
Which is going to be very interesting when we play Halo 2 and we see Sergeant Johnson. It's like, if you beat the game on Legendary, you're thinking, how the heck did you get off this ring?
And the answer is heroic is canonical. That's also why Master Chief survived the Jackals in Halo 2.
Well, yeah, I mean, the actual lore answer is it's classified. That's straight up a dialogue point. He's straight up asked, how the heck did you get off there anyway? Classified, son. That's all we get. But it's some good stuff. So, and as we wrap up here, did you have any other last fun facts, Christian?
Yes, I do have a few, and not all of the fun facts that I found I was able to confirm solidly. So if any of this is not accurate, we can either cut it out, or someone in the comments can call me a liar.
That was better for engagement, so please call Christian a liar and share this with your enemies.
Yes, and if you find out that this is false, please tell me where you got that information so that I know. Some of the background dialogue of the Marines was actually clips taken from the movie Aliens.
No!
That's what I have found. I don't have specifics of like this line was taken, but just some of the like background that you hear, like you have to be close to certain Marines when they're talking, but you can sometimes hear dialogue that was just copy and pasted from the movie. And then the other thing, in the ending cutscene, Master Chief removes his helmet, but his face is not shown. And on the PC version of the game, the cutscene can be viewed in free roam view. And if you rearrange it so that you're looking at Master Chief's face as he removes the helmet, there's another helmet underneath.
Yup.
The exact same one.
Yup. No sneak peeks for you, buddy.
That's amazing.
I thought that was hilarious.
Unless you watch the show.
Oh my word. We're not
I looked it up. I actually do think Christian is right about the alien dialogue.
Oh my word.
It's amazing. I think that's correct, yeah.
I love
that's
that.
great. That's hilarious, dude. Yeah, okay, as we're signing out, I gotta say one of the things that not that I want Halo to be a meme joke series, I do feel as it goes on, it starts getting a little bit more self-serious, and I enjoy the earlier installments maybe being a little bit more tongue-in-cheek at points and being willing to be a little bit goofy. I do feel one of the failings of maybe some of the later games is they feel a little more self-serious and self-important.
Fair enough. Yeah, I mean, like, one, they didn't quite know what they were probably going for. It's, you know, it's first one in the franchise and stuff like that. But then, like, hey, let's turn this into a series and let's try to get a little bit more serious with the plot. I personally, for at least the Bungie era, think this a little bit more of the self-seriousness does really well. I don't think when 343 took over, they tried to keep the self-serious, and I don't think they handled it nearly as well.
Well, I mean, I think 2 and 3 have goofy moments, not to get too far ahead of ourselves, but I'll just say the monkey family feels...
Oh, I can't wait to show Christian Monkey Family.
Yeah, so,
Yeah,
like, but, like, where's stuff like, maybe I just don't know them as well, but I can't think of moments like that in 4 and 6, of which I've played, so, I don't know. Maybe just haven't liked them enough to bother finding them.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Well, this game was
really
super fun to play with you guys. I am super pumped for the second one when we get to play through that one. I hope you guys are looking forward to it as well.
Ooh, can I ask one more thing before we sign off?
Yeah.
Just because I like this. I know you're hosting, but this makes me happy. My little charts at the end. Could we get some tier rankings on this of A through F, where we'd put Halo 1?
A through F. I would put Halo 1 at a good solid A-.
Based on just not knowing how the rest of the franchise is going to go, I'm going to say a B+, but it may go up, it may go down. We'll see.
Well, like, rank it as a game right now, which can be a B+, but, like, don't compare it to imaginary games.
I'm gonna stay at my B+.
Yeah, I think that's fair. It could be the nostalgia talking. This was my favorite Halo for quite some time, but it's got to be an A. Plus and minus is something I kind of think about as I go on. I don't want to really have to lock myself in. Gun to my head, I might say A- just because there's a couple sections that like could be improved on and are later. Some of the asset reuse, maybe. But like this game, it's one I wouldn't mind if we replayed it right now. I mean that. I know we don't have the time, we got to move on, but like it's that fun. We just beat it again, and I'm like, yeah, I'd run through it again. It's a good time, man. So yeah, A for me.
Alrighty. Well, I'm pretty firm on the A- side of things, and I'm probably not going to adjust things because I think I personally believe I have a really firm ranking on my Halo games at this point. So, yeah, a little spoiler alert. I don't think there is a single Halo game in the Bungie era that goes lower than an A. An A-. They're just so good in my mind. But yeah, I'm looking forward to when we finally get through. Super stoked for Halo 3 personally. That is just one of the best games of all time in my mind. I hope you guys, I hope Christian being able to experience for the first time will have even remotely as much enjoyment as I do.
I'm looking forward to it, man.
Well, thank you everyone for listening. This is Spartan Austin signing off.
This is Boom Boom saying boom boom.
This is Dolan 117 signing off for the Gameboys.
All right.
Wait, now it tells me I don't have Halo installed! Why?
You literally were just in the lobby.
Yeah, I was!
Here we go.
Do you know why ducks make horrible doctors? They're all quacks.
What the literal...
It uninstalled it, right?
The other day, I pulled this up, and it started the campaign.
I'm telling you. Yeah, you talked to me about it. It uninstalled it with like an update or something. I'm not making this up, Austin.
It's so damn good. Oh my god.
Oh, I'm losing my mind. Oh my gosh, I'm losing my mind. Frigging, why would you call out for a mother you have never known? Because it's a magic word that makes humans stop. Oh, yes! So good. Oh my gosh. I hope they don't chicken out and make them sympathetic later. I really am worried they're gonna do that. So good. Yeah. Hey, isn't there a way we can play games on this while we're waiting? Where's Christian? Is he not gonna join?
It's asking me to authorize.
Yes, it's not gonna eat your soul, I promise. Oh no, Christian isn't here. What's that percentage at now? Oh boy.
22.
Hey. Oh my I'm in so much pain. I am in misery. Austin, what if we have like the first episode of the Halo experience or whatever, and it's just like us playing podcast? No, hey. We should all try and sing the Halo music. No.
Please, for the love of everything that is good and holy.
Gonna be honest, Austin, I feel like since the new updates, Master Chief Collection's a lot different than when we played it. You know, I don't remember all this, like, golf nonsense in the original game.
Someone else make a burger.
We should be recording this audio.
I'm making
We are
fries now.
recording this audio.
Oh, okay.
It's not the video. Someone start a fry. Why is no one doing anything but me?
I was doing fries.
Okay, it's installing. It's already at 50%.
Who cares about that? We got burgers. Okay. Hey, let's start this.
I just wish we all knew